You know what, before I install that, just for kicks, like say for kicks, I got my tripod leg in the way. Okay, there we go. I'm just going to measure this cut-in box. Like I said, I've got my light switch turned off. I'm going to measure from the ceiling down across there. I could take my level too and measure across there if the ceiling wasn't exactly level. I got 18 and an eighth there. And I got 18 and 3/16. So see, if anything, I may have to move this, swivel that up, but before I move anything, let's just, I got my level here. I'm gonna put my level across there and see what we got here. Yeah, see, it does have to move. This hole has to go up. And because I've got it on a cut-in box and because I can swivel that up, I think it's best for me to do that. Now like I say, your light fixture junction box, you may not be able to do that. I'm going to measure this metal backing plate first, the screw holes that they have here. And that's 3 5/8, and I think that's the end screw holes. Yeah, 3 5/8 are the end ones. Cause see, they've got this box set up. Or see, these holes are 2 3/4, and then the other ones are 3 5/8. So there's 2 sets. I know I got to measure from the outside sets. Okay, so rats. And if you're watching that last little bit, you'll know that if I screw that up there, I've got to use these 2 mounting screws here because this doesn't zip out all the way. Or else I could have just adjusted it that way. And the only way to do that now is to drill that hole really big for my screw, but I don't need to do that because my junction box can be moved. And let's just see here. I've got three screws for that. All I have to do is undo a couple. Well, maybe I might have to undo all 3 screws and slide that around. And so before I do that, I'll put a pencil mark right there, so I know how far. I mean, it's going to be slightly trial and error, just a slide. See, I've already moved it, and it's probably going to go something like that. And so I'm just going to tighten one first, measure this, 18 and 3/16, 18 and an eighth. I still have to go a little more. Okay, and so I can loosen that. That's just loosening the little brackets behind there to get me to be able to turn this. Okay, there. I've got to twist on a little bit because I've got my wire in there too and everything. Okay, mercy me. That looks too far there. Okay, I want to say something like that. Let's see. Let's see what happens. 18 and 3/16. Oh, I'm going the wrong way now. Davney, damn it. Okay, let's just try this again. I've got a starting point there. Okay. Oh, okay, I get it. I was moving it the wrong direction, silly me. I think. Okay, that's looking pretty good right there. Just gonna check it again off the ceiling. And that looks really good. And I'm checking it off the ceiling. What I could do is just grab my level. I'm gonna put it up on the ceiling. So see how flat it is. See, it's level. It's level. Usually most ceilings are, depending where you're measuring and whether or not you're on an exterior wall and how old your house is, and if your foundation is slightly settled or something like that, obviously your ceiling might have settled. And your ceiling isn't necessarily going to be exactly 100% level. Okay. All right, so now I'm taking that bracket and sucking back in behind there. And I only had to loosen this up a little. Okay, there. I think that's done it by Joe. You don't want to tighten those too much either, because you could snap off the plastic. It's, you know, things nowadays, it's all plastic, you know what I mean? And so everything looks like I'm pretty much good to go here. Okay. All right, that's good. Now I can install my little metal bracket. Okay, now let's talk about this just briefly. Okay, I got some screws with the light fixture to install this. Okay, here's my two little screws, and these are machine threaded screws, by the way, but they're designed to be screwed right up into that plastic box. But you know, lots of times I like to save little screws like this. Okay, maybe I can use these for something else, and I'm gonna choose not to use those as my mounting screws. I'm gonna choose to use something else. I always have drywall screws. These are 1.25 inches, and usually I carry 1.25 inches, 1 5/8, 2 inch, 2.5, 3 inch with me. Coarse threaded. These are coarse threads. See, and see, here's two of them right here. I got out of this box, and I'm going to use these. I'm going to use these for the mounting bracket. These don't cost very much, and there's many more things I can do with these two little machine screws than I can with these, right? Why not use a couple of these? And I'll save these in my little catch-all box with all kinds of other stuff. And so that's what I've decided to do. And generally these screw right into plastic boxes, and sometimes if the cover's longer, then I'll use an 1 5/8 screw to go in all the way to the back. But you know, more times than not, 1.25 inch will work just fine. So now that I've made the determination, I'm using these drywall screws. I'm going to put this up. Okay, naturally, like I said, make sure your power's off. I got my power off. I've got wire nuts still left on here. I'll put that in there like that. Okay, and now I can take my drywall screws and I can put them in here. And like I say, I'm gonna hold this whole thing up with just these two screws. Okay. And if you want, you've got little anchors out here. Sometimes you might have it to where your wires come in right out of the sheetrock, and you're thinking, hey, there's no junction box in there. Technically, do you have to install a junction box if you don't have one in the wall, if the wires are just coming out? Well, technically, by code, you're supposed to do that, and that's how this one was. That's why I put a cut-in box in there. They had a hole drilled, about a 2-inch hole, and with the wires just stuck out of there. And the light fixture, they had to install it with plastic anchors. And so I thought, okay, one of the things I'll do is I'll make another video on how to install a light fixture cut-in box. Now see, because I'm using those screws too, I got a little bit of a slop in there, don't I? So that's good, because once I tighten this up, now I can measure I can measure off of that, can I? At the very end, and see which way I need to slide that. Do I need to slide it up or down? Just looking at it, looks like this side's low. Okay, I've got 15 and 15/16. I call that I call that a short 16. Okay. And here I got a little over 16 inches. So it's just a matter of unscrewing that, making sure that one's down all the way and maybe that one's up all the way, and I'll try that. Okay. That's just a hair in that box. Okay. And I'll try that. I've got that side pushed up all the way. Like that. Okay. And that looks better. Okay, I got it exactly the same. Okay. And like I say, if your ceiling's off, you can take your level. At this point, you can eyeball that if you want, or measure off the ceiling. You can take a level. You can take a 2-foot level or a smaller level. Now see this here, because I'm going all the way out further, it looks like this side could ever be slightly pushed up just a hair. And maybe this side didn't go down all the way. Okay, there, see? I don't think it was down all the way. We'll just check that. And see with the drywall screws, has a little cup on the back side of the type of screw rather than a flat head. So if I had flat head screws, I could adjust this just barely a little bit differently, which then you may have to use your other screws. Let's say that's perfect. Okay. Now at this point, you got to decide. I'm trying to put my level back without it smashing down to the floor. You can decide. Do you think that's going to be strong enough for you? Is your box here mounted tightly? Is it kind of wonky or whatever? At this point, if you want to put your plastic anchors in, you can put them in. On these two, what I would do is then put a little mark at both ends and poke your hole and all that kind of stuff. And then of course you've got to pull this back off, poke your holes in there a little bit, put your anchors in there, put this back, put your other screws in there. Now you can have these two screws holding as well as these, or you can just use these two outside ones if you want, if this box is slightly off and if you got to drill holes because your bracket's not lining up just right. Maybe this light fixture box is not exactly centered above your light fixture. Let's say it needs to be moved over an inch this way, and you've got this big hole here, and you can slide this over all the way over. Well, now obviously maybe you don't have holes to mount this to your box unless you were to measure exactly where they were, drill holes through the back of this and try to fish those in through here. This thing slid over. Now you can use your mounting brackets over here, right? So you can take this. You don't have to exactly mount this exactly where your light fixture junction box is. You can slightly move this to the right or to the left, however you want to line up with your sink, or maybe however you have it. You want to slide it one way or another. You see what I'm saying? You've got a little bit of room here for that. You could even cut this sheet metal out further if you want with some tin snips if you need to slide it over further than 1.5 inches to where this is only going to give you so much to slide one way or another, right? You could cut this other little thing out if you wanted, reinstall your ground screw somewhere else if your screw to this mounting plate needs to go somewhere else. You see what I'm saying? You do anything you want. All right? And so now I'm gonna just these screws in here, I'm going to undo those screws a little bit. These are the mounting screws for that next bit. I want to make sure I got plenty of room to fish those, that backing piece up, okay? When I hold that up in there to slide it in and all that, okay? All right, good to go so far? That's your next step. We get that in there, and you know, when I get ready to repaint everything, am I gonna put plastic anchors in there? I might, in case the cutting box ever gets loose. That cutting box ever gets loose, then it's gonna move my whole light fixture, isn't it? But maybe when I take this down next time to paint everything up here, and then after I get done painting, when I get everything up to this point, I'm gonna say I probably will put plastic anchors in there to make this a little bit tighter up against the wall. Yeah, that's what I'll do.